Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Welcome, everybody. This is George Armistead at Life List. I'm here with my co-host, Alvaro Jaramillo. Alvaro, what's going on?
Hey, George. Here it is. Another episode.
Back again.
I think we're in a situation now where you're going into the deep freeze cold, and here it's looking like spring. Weird. Warm.
Oh, my gosh. Old man winter, man. Old man winter is here. Actually, today's a little bit better, but yeah, I think we're getting down to single digits Fahrenheit next couple days. Pretty frigid.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
That's it's cold. Cold.
Yeah, man. What have you been doing? What have you been seeing?
I have not been out much, believe it or not. Just a little gull watching here and there, and watching birds while walking the dog. Western meadowlarks are out there in the field, sort of in wintering.
Nice.
And the white-crowned sparrows, the local breeders, have started to sing. Buick's wrens are singing. This is roughly when the singing really starts kicking off here. Just the days are getting longer, and before you know it, we'll have arriving hummingbirds. So it's a whole different deal than the Northeast.
I should say, yeah, about the only thing kicking into gear breeding wise here are like great horned owls and bald eagles.
Right.
Like a few at nests, some great horned owls duetting. I haven't heard any of these, mind you, as of late.
Have you seen the eagle?
Yes. Yeah. We should tell people about that.
We should tell people about that.
Yeah. That was the original name for this podcast that I proposed until Alvaro was like, look, like half the country will have no idea what you're talking about. Say, I wanted to call it, Have You Seen the Eagle? Because so many of us, there's several spots here in Philly. If I go out birding, every single time I run into sort of a non-birder at that location, the question is asked, have you seen the eagle? And up and down the East Coast is a big thing, man. We get a lot, and I'm sure elsewhere too.
Yeah, well, here, in California, this part of California, bald eagles are just kind of starting to show up. They're not common at all. So, if somebody said to me, "You seen the eagle?" I'd be like, "Where? Take me to it." And I've certainly actually never had just a random person come up to me and say, "Have you seen the eagle?" Because a random person around here is unlikely to have seen the eagle. So.
Right. You don't have that many.
Don't have that many. So, So I kind of said, George, I don't think this is going to resonate with some of us,
Yeah.
And,
yeah. It was a good call. You were correct.
It was pretty,
but man, it is like, I forget, it was at Manasquan Inlet last year, North Jersey Shore, was there with a couple friends. And we were just birding around, and there was another party of, say, 3 or 4 people that we didn't know also birding there. And we're like, oh, wow, cool, razorbill, man, there's a female king eider over here. And we're just kind of like, sharing sightings between strangers that are birders, talking the talk. And this guy comes up who's kind of oblivious. And was just like, well, I don't know what you're doing here, but there's a bald eagle down there. And he acted like we were going to just drop everything, like, oh my God, a bald eagle. Like, bald eagles are great. Like, we all love bald eagles, but there's a king eider, there's razorbills, people had seen like Pacific loons in the area. There was hundreds of common eiders. These are a lot of cool birds. I'm not going to say that they're necessarily cooler than bald eagles because, that's all in the eye of the beholder. But it was funny because like me and one of the people in the other group of 3 or 4, we just kind of locked eyes for a minute and we were like, have you seen the eagle? And then the guy left and we just started laughing because we'd already both been asked like the same thing a couple times that day. And I think it depends on the site.
Right. Like if you're near the Steller sea eagle, have you seen the eagle might actually have a different meaning, right? Yeah.
Yes, and that'd be a whole different ball of wax right there.
So
Yeah.
did you know that 2 years ago, I think Japan, like in Hokkaido, they had a bald eagle flying around? So the Japanese birders actually were pretty excited about, the bald eagle. And, obviously it's great, rare bird, but I was thinking about how amazing that would be that in one day you could see bald eagle, stellar seagull, and white-tailed eagle all in maybe in the same minute. If you're out there, that would have been pretty cool. So
yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw, Alvaro, but our friends, Melissa Roach, Tom Johnson, a couple of their friends, went up, saw the stellar seagull, surrounded by bald eagles, and spotted a golden eagle.
Oh, really?
At the same time. Yeah.
Whoa.
3 eagle species in North America in a day. That's a tough assignment right there.
That's a tough assignment. Although, if you want to get taxonomic, 2 different kinds of eagles, but,
this is true.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah. Fish eagles versus true eagles, right?
Yeah. Or as I understand, some are apt to call them booted eagles.
Booted eagles,
right? They're talking about separating them that way.
Booted eagles, I like that too. Although true eagle sounds like, I guess then you're being, you're making a call, right?
Yeah.
There's a fake eagle versus a true eagle, if a harpy eagle
sounds a little judgmental.
You'd be like, that's an eagle, even though it's not a true eagle. So talking about the boots is good.
Yeah. I like the booted eagles. That's a cool bunch of birds right there. I mean, all eagles are great, but booted eagles, I feel like that's where it's at. They're fashionable. They got boots.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about that term, though, is if you actually see a booted eagle, the bird called the booted eagle, it's not very eagle-like. It's kind of more hawky.
It's more like a beauty almost or something. Yeah.
Hawkish. Yeah. Yeah. But the booted part refers to the big, fuzzy, feathered tarsi, kind of like a rough leg hawk on steroids.
Ferruginous. Yeah.
So I like it.
Yeah. It's a good look, though.
It's a good look,
It's a good look. Yeah. If you can pull it off.
Yeah. I know. So, what else is going on? What have you been up to?
Well, I moved. Me and Kristen moved into a new home.
Wow.
So, it's been a long time coming. I think we referenced it even once or twice before, but it's been a bit of a bear, the process, but we finally did it, man. We are into the new place. Yard list is humming along. It's been cold and windy and snowy. In fact, the day that we moved, it's a city here. I went and parked my car in such a way to try and save a spot for the movers, so the moving truck could have a spot real close to the front door so those guys would be in and out quick, hopefully. Took forever. It seemed like no fault of theirs. We just had a lot of stuff. And so the movers are coming in. We're like, we're here. You got to move your car. I was like, all right. And it's, it's like 3 inches of snow on the ground. Huh. So I pull my car up the street, park it again, and I'm like, I'll get back to it. I didn't think of it. I wasn't going anywhere. We were just unpacking. There's snow everywhere. So I left it there for 2 days. And I come back next, 2 days later. I'm like, okay, I got to run a few errands. And I'm like, where's my car? My car is gone.
Dude, where's my car?
Dude, where's my car? I was like flabbergasted. Like, it's never happened to me before in my life, I'm like, what is going on? And all of a sudden I'm like, I parked right here. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, it's kind of under the snow, but I see that there's a driveway here. But because there was snow everywhere, I couldn't tell that I'd blocked the driveway. So my car.
That's a good way to start your relationship with the neighbors. You'll be forever the guy who couldn't see the driveway. You'll be at.
Dude, my car's distinctive too. It's like it's kind of been bumped up from years in the city. So everyone's probably like, there's that guy. There's that jackass blocked the driveway.
Right. Yeah, you're probably on nextdoor.com as like See who moved in here? The guy with that car, and he just parked anywhere.
Yeah, it was an expensive mistake to make, both in terms of the wallet and in terms of reputation in the hood. So that was one thing went kind of. Yeah, exactly. Not good. Not ideal.
You're gonna have to do like be the grill guy who invites everybody over, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I know. At the very least, I'll have to start shoveling everybody's walks just to be like, oh, that guy, he shoveled the walks at least. Yeah.
This is your venture into suburbia.
Yeah. We're still in the city, but it is definitely a bit more suburban. But yeah, the yard list is coming along, and first nice yard bird I had was a nice flock of snow geese go over way high up. There were some birds moving because of the weather. And also had a little flock of Common Mergansers just like rocketing along way up high. And then the other nice yard bird so far was I had a merlin, which I think, as you know, is one of my absolute favorites. But yeah, mostly just really been backyard birding because the move, unpacking, getting the house set up and everything. Well, it's been.
I saw your postings and I thought he was moving, within the Philly area. I didn't realize he was going to a small country, a small European country adjacent to Spain. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the neighborhood of Andorra there. Everybody was like,
Andorra.
They're like, what are you moving there for? And I'm like, no, I really regretted that.
Snow goose is really good in Andorra.
Yeah.
The Spanish bird.
The good bird over there.
The rare bird alert in Spain or Andorra, it's going crazy.
Yep. Yeah, not as much the Goosander or the merlin, but snow goose.
Goosander.
Definitely raise a few eyebrows.
Goosander, I'd split that, but that's another topic.
Oh yeah, definitely a split.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, they look, that might be one of the few birds, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, where there's, two entities or more entities within the broad ranging species, where the bird's plumage looks exactly the same as the others, but the complete structure of the thing is totally different. Like you see this goosander, which is the common merganser in the, Europe, Asia, their bill, their head shape, everything is totally different, yet it's exactly the same color. So it's like, it's kind of a weird one, right? Because you wouldn't notice necessarily in a specimen tray that they were that different, but as a live bird, you're like, whoa, different beast. Like, it's hard to explain, but they have this little refined beak.
They're bigger too, aren't they? Isn't Goosander? I thought Goosander was bigger.
Maybe. I want to say the other way around, but their beak is like weirdly like it's got a little point to it, and it looks a little upturned, and it's oddball. And their head shape was different to me, and I was like, that thing. And it's so distinctive that once you know to look for it, you can go through a set of pictures of random Goosander and common merganser. You can actually pick them out just on shape. And I was like, yeah. People are everybody go and do this. Go look at them online and see if you agree with me. But it's I was blown away by their shape rather than their coloration. Still a green-headed, white-bodied thing with a orangey red bill, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I feel like I think we had, when I was on the Pribilof Islands, St. Paul, we had one flyby there, and it was like, it was just a flyby. Like we couldn't really assess structure very easily in the sighting. But I think we all agreed that it was probably a goosander, and especially at that location, that's, imagine, a lot more likely.
Didn't you all think you saw or tried to document what was potentially a Pigeon Guillemot of the northeastern population, the snowy eye corral? Island
that was
thing?
It was me and a group from the UK on St. Paul Island. We were at Reef Point, which is the south end of the island there, and I have to admit it was, I didn't really know what I was looking at the time. This was it was 2002, I guess. And we were birding around, and I spotted this, real dark looking Pigeon Guillemot out there. And we looked at it for a while, like trying to turn it into something else, and eventually, settled on that. And then, or settled on just being like a weird Pigeon Guillemot. And then like, I think it was like a week later or something, I was looking through that Ian Jones Alcids of the World book, which is a really nice book.
Yeah.
And it was illustrated there. And I was like, oh my God, that's what we saw. But it was long since passed, and the bird was not super far, but it was not real close either. We did not get any photos. But I feel convinced that that's what it was. I still believe that. But didn't nail it down.
Everybody who's thinking, what are they talking about? The Pigeon Guillemot is this. Well, so you've got black Guillemot, Pigeon Guillemot. Pigeon Guillemot has black underwings, and it has that, the white patch with a little dark bit on it. And they're Pacific. But once you go around sort of the Pacific Islands to Russia, you get this all black Pigeon Guillemot type thing, all black, no white on it, and its winter plumage is actually similar to spectacled Guillemot, which is another Russian Japanese thing. So the fact that something Russian could end up on the Pribilofs is not that unusual in a sense. Maybe nobody's noticed it before, but it's actually much further south. In any case, it's a really good find if you could convince people.
Yeah, I think, like I say, I feel confident that that's what it was. But even, 20 years later with no photos, I would have a hard time, going to a records committee or something and trying to convince them that that's what we had. It was really single day sighting. I did kind of look around for it after I realized that that's what it was, but there, the ship had sailed.
Yeah.
And, these things, they get away from us sometimes. It's just the way it is.
Again, another one we could split, but
yeah, I think so for sure. Yeah. Well, anyway, that was a nice one as a yardbird, Common Merganser, which is how we got on that train, which is cool.
That was quite the train.
Yeah, exactly. Nice, the tangled web we weave.
It took us from Philadelphia to Andorra to Japan and Russia and the Pribilofs.
Yeah, we really did. We really spun quite the yarn there. That's good. Yeah. Well, I'm psyched to get more into the yard listing. I'm real keen to work on that. So, been good so far, but a long way to go. Early January here, so.
Until the migrants come, it'll be interesting to see what happens, in a place that's kind of in the city but not quite in the city, and I assume has some big trees around there. So
yeah. We're real near a heavily wooded area and have some trees in the yard, and also a good bit of sky up on a little bit of a ridge. So there's some migration. That's why I think these geese and cormorants common mergansers are going by, as we're just elevated just enough that, and there's some obvious raptor movement there too. So that's nice.
Yeah, I think one of the beauties of yard listing, or watching your yard, and counting up what you see, whatever you want to call it, is the stuff that doesn't show up, right? That you think, oh man, it's cool that you have these, snow geese flying over and kind of a little random. Maybe it's even going to be regular. But I bet you're going to get to a situation where you're like, I cannot believe I have not yet seen X or Y. And often those are interesting observations. They might tell you a little bit about the biology of the bird or the ecology of your spot or something. You kind of learn from this kind of yard watching, listing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. You learn as much from what you don't see as from what you do see, if not more. And, my last place was a condo downtown with really no yard, just a few trees around, but there was a little kind of basically an overgrown lot right there, which would attract some birds. And I mean, we're really talking about just a few trees, and they're all non-native. This is basically just the best any bird could do for habitat that happened to be coming through the area. One of the things I found was interesting was I only had three over my 4 years there. I only had 3 times where I ever had Carolina wren, which is an abundant bird, in the suburbs and even in parts of more rural Philadelphia or suburban Philadelphia. It's a common backyard bird, and but right downtown, they just they're just not there. And the only time, all 3 times I had them was like late July, early August. And that told me something, right? That's when those things are moving. They must be moving then. And I don't know if they were really truly migrants. I sort of doubt that at that time. Suspect it was more what is broadly termed post-breeding dispersal, or maybe even young birds dispersing away from natal areas. But I just that was an eye opener for me. It was late July, early August. There's Carolina wrens moving, because as a resident bird here, they kind of always, whatever their movements are, they kind of fly under the radar.
Yeah, exactly. I think we might have a similar situation with Hutton's vireo. I get them off and on here, and in Vancouver. I used to see them at this local park too that didn't have them breeding. And they have some windows where they show up, and you're like, well, I mean, Hutton's vireos are not migrants, are they? So you start thinking, okay, maybe this is when they disperse, or this is when they do their thing. They expand their distribution to some extent, give things a go. You can only do that in places that don't have them, or note when they aren't there versus when they are there, or whatever. It's interesting. Yeah. A lot of learning. We're gonna hear more of your backyard, I'm sure, as things.
Yes, I've got the vagrants I'm dreaming of, but it will be very. I'm like, man, I want to get like a goshawk. Like I feel like where I'm situation, goshawk could be great, or maybe like someday, pipe dream would be like a varied thrush or a Harris's sparrow in winter.
Wow.
Like, can picture that, but whether it'll happen or not, of course, is a very different thing.
Yeah. I always have a dream of a Siberian accentor right in the corner.
That's a nice bird.
Yeah, right in the corner there in the, underneath this dark bush, and come out to get some seed, and then.
There you go. Yeah, I know you have one of those on your roster from years past, right?
But I've never seen one again, so it's kind of a magic bird in all the travels.
I found one in Alaska once. It's I think the only one I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's with that original one that I saw in Vancouver. I just remember, I don't know if I've told you this before, there was somebody shows up who didn't quite kind of get the memo correctly, and is, you got some kind of a accipiter here, huh? Some kind of, is it like a Sharpie? And I was like, no, it's not an accipiter. It's an accentor. It's like a little, okay. I was thinking it was a Sharpie kind of thing. That's still the best. That's the best line.
Siberian sharpshin.
Siberian accipiter. Well,
nice.
Rare birds, George, have been causing a kerfuffle. Yes, you're showing me a picture of the bird of the year.
Yes,
the burrowing owl. Yes, a kerfuffle, a real imbroglio is.
A Natalie Imbruglia.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, now I'm going to have that song in my head, It's a cover, by the way. Listen to the original.
Yeah.
So this burrowing owl in Toronto, in Ontario, shows up. And it's an owl, right? Beautiful owl, amazing owl, bird of the year. Incredibly rare in Ontario. They're Western species for the most part, right? At least in the Northeast, they're not supposed to be there. And some people see it and realize, well, there's all these rules to like sharing information on rare birds and owls specifically. It essentially doesn't get out. The info doesn't get out. And
word is it's suppressed.
As
you say,
it's suppressed. And then the bunch of people want to see it. And it disappears eventually, a few people saw it.
Of course they want to see it, Al. Of course they want to see it because they're good human beings, and good human beings like to see owls.
Like to see owls.
To reiterate that.
Regular people like to see owls. And what happens is people see it actually revert to the old school phone tree, tell some people, but don't put it out on the social network. So guess what happens? Essentially, the old school people see the bird. The newer people who are getting all the information via the internet don't see the bird. And it causes this rift. Then it's eventually found again, right? So more people got to see it. And the issue was, again, kind of came out into the open of people, the idea of some people were suppressing and being elitist in a sense. Those people saying, no, we're not being elitist. We just couldn't give the information out. The local park, too, didn't want the information just willy-nilly. So there's all sorts of interesting layers but people were peeved. Nobody was happy about this whole thing. And that, I think,
understandably.
And I think we could one day have a really good conversation about elitism in birding, because as we were talking just before we got, went live, I think it's always existed. And I think older people or people who've been at this a long time, I want to liken it to the military. There was like a hierarchy that was just accepted that in a sense didn't trouble you, because it's like, I'm not captain yet, but maybe I will be one day if I try hard enough.
Maybe I'll be first lieutenant in a couple of years.
Rather than here with, peeling potatoes. So, and I'm not saying that's a good way to grow up as a birder, but it was the way the system was. And in a sense, we didn't have issues of somebody saying, hey, hold on a minute, this is elitism. It was like, yeah, sure it is. It always has been, And today we have this old school, new school going on, where some people see sort of the older system of birding as normal and therefore not an elitist system. Newer people who are like, hey, hold on a second, that's you're not letting everybody into the whatever. And we could have a really ripe discussion, maybe have some guests even to talk about that, because it's kind of interesting, because I think there's a huge gray area in there that's happening because we're in a cultural shift, right? And I don't think anybody's
growing so quickly.
Yeah. And nobody really wants to go to back to the old, military style birding, earning your stripes.
The phone trees
the phone trees and street cred and who you believe, who you don't believe. But it was the way it was. And I think sort of this all came to head with the bird of the year, Burrowing Owl, which amazingly is a really hard bird to see as a vagrant, because sometimes they actually hide underground. So it's like, it's the worst, right? Like, it's not like some bird that's like, oh, it hasn't shown up at the feeder yet, the brambling. It's more like, I think it could be underground, and maybe it's going to stay there for 2 days, so it's
it's freaking cold up there, it's so, like, why would I come out?
So note to self, if you're going to go look for a burrowing owl, make sure it's a sunny day. Maybe the evening or the morning would be the good time to see them.
Tricky bird to chase.
But so all this is happening. I had a conversation with one of my old friends from Ontario, Jeff Skevington. And Jeff Skevington, along with Mike Burrell, they came up with this idea before this ever happened. And I think this is the cool part of this story. The part about people being mad and not seeing the owl, that's one thing. That's not cool. Birding should be fun. So this is what they've come up with. With the OFO, Ontario Field Ornithologists, it's a I'm going to say it's a program, right? That I put a Canadian kind of an special MME there. That I don't know if you heard it, but rather than it's like a project. Right?
I see. Program.
Yeah, yes, program. Yeah, exactly. Program. Right? Different spelling. And the thing is that it's an ambassador program, Rare Bird Ambassador. And what they're trying to do is, first of all, like your mind goes to, oh man, are they going to be the rare bird police? No, what they're trying to do is actually have people all over the province who are involved and interested in birds, that if something shows up near them, they can, first of all, make sure access is okay and facilitate access. Talk to landowners. Let's say a brambling is at somebody's feeder or something like that. Apparently they've already done a few of these things. It was, I think, a calliope hummingbird, and they can facilitate access to it by talking to the landowners, and also facilitate the care of the bird itself, so that nobody's getting too close.
So people, right.
People know that it's certain folks are the ambassadors, so they have some level of the community's given them some level of power, I guess, to sort of say, hey, you should park here, you should do this, you should do that, and make the landowners happy too that they have these birds land in their spot. Give them a book where the people from all over the place can sign their name and thank them. In some cases, they've even had people give money to the landowner to either invest in conservation work, or in one case, I thought this was funny, that all the birds just trampled the grass right around near the feeder of this calliope hummingbird. So part of the money went to replace the grass, which is, it seems so civilized, like that you could have and obviously it's going to have to, be rolled out and tested and done in more situations to see how it works. But kudos to Mike, Jeff, and Ofo for putting together some kind of at least idea of creating a situation, a framework where the owl situation is less likely to happen, or perhaps, they weren't, apparently in this case, they really didn't have the system up and going for the owl to sort of kind of come in on this, but as it's a brand new project that they're getting going. And I think it's a good idea to even mention to the wider North American public, other places, and maybe your old employers, the American Birding Association. It'd be great for them to do projects like this where the average birder who's a member would get a benefit. I think the idea of also organizations, if you take it another step, maybe talking to garbage dumps, landfills, sewage treatment plants, they all have PR departments, and if PR could be
even state parks national parks, having a liaison there that can help direct traffic and hope direct traffic in a positive way, and direct attention in a positive way. I think we've all seen situation where these rare birds pop up and there's just kind of really nobody to, and it's not that people innately always act badly or inconsiderately, but more so that at times it's not clear what they should do, where they should park, where they can walk, where they're on where they're permitted to stand and where they're not permitted to stand. It can be a gray area, and so then it makes it much easier if it's not clear. Then all of a sudden it makes it hard for someone to be like, hey, you're getting too close to that bird, or this is not the way this is supposed to be. I do think having a network of these folks would be good, all over the place. Some places it's pretty straightforward and clear how to behave and how folks shouldn't behave. And other places it's really, there's so much gray.
Right.
It's hard to know, even if you're really well-intentioned and being careful.
And if you're thinking about the fact that birding, we're all trying to make birding more popular, get more people out there, this is going to be, even if listing itself isn't proportionally as much, the type of birding people do, just higher numbers of birders. There will always be listing people wanting to see something new, people wanting to see something new for their state or wherever. It's going to be more of an issue in a sense. We need to like put the systems in place that make it great for birders and for the birds. But you want to hear the funniest? I mean, I thought this was great. The funniest one that Jeff mentioned that they'd sort of facilitated. It was a rock wren in Ontario, pretty rare bird, right? So this person, this family has this rock wren coming to their land, and it's a farm, I think, a big farm, and it's coming and goes through a cat door into the barn. Right, it's going into the.
I remember seeing photos of this at the time, being like, "What the heck is going on with this thing?"
So it goes in the cat door in the barn to get out of the cold. So the landowner says, "Oh, this is a rare bird and stuff," and starts putting mealworms inside the barn. So basically, the rock wren just hangs out inside the barn. So there's no way anybody can see it, and it's private land. And the ambassador program eventually goes out, talks to this person who's like, I don't know if I want people here, but how about we do this? Every so often when we feel like, we'll let 5 people in or so. And so they put together a system so 5 at a time could go in certain days, not every day, really controlled. And eventually over 100 people saw this rock wren that was coming in. Well, actually, eventually just staying inside this barn until it flew off in spring.
I remember seeing the video of it, like hopping around, like sitting on like vices and the tips of shovel, the top of a shovel handle, and it's like just hopping around. And I'm like, what the deuce is happening with this thing?
I know, it's
so cool. I guess that's as close as it gets to a cave in Ontario in winter.
Right. It's almost normal behavior for a rock wren, just in the wrong place. And I think the other part too that they found so far in these sort of test scenarios they've done with the ambassador programs is the birds that actually cause the most problems are the ones that stay too long. And it's totally resonated with me. So if you have a rare bird that's there for 3 days, you essentially don't have enough time for anybody to build up
hit critical mass after a week or so,
resentment, or whatever it might be, But the longer something is there, the more issues it causes for either the place, the landowner, the birders themselves, or what have you. So, that will have an effect too, I imagine.
Have you've heard the story, Al, of what they called the biggest twitch ever in the UK? Have you not?
Well, the things that come up with biggest twitch ever are in my head are red-breasted nuthatch and the golden winged warbler. I'm trying to say
golden winged warbler was. I had a friend who was at the golden winged warbler, which I think was 1992. So we're going back quite a ways here. And I'll just tell the story that he told me briefly. And I should say this is about 6-8 years removed from me hearing this story. So it's possible I am not telling it entirely accurately, but I thought it was a pretty hilarious and interesting story of one. But basically, I think it was in Kent, England, and the finder of the bird, I believe, was like going to run an errand at late in the afternoon as it was getting dark, and found and sees this beautiful golden winged warbler, hopping around in a yard that's like a pretty tiny yard.
It was visible from the parking lot of Tesco, which is sort of like the big, that's what I remember. The guy was going to Tesco to go get groceries or something like that.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get milk.
Yeah, like milk.
That.
Yeah. But it's Tesco parking lot.
So the way I heard it was that like he saw this bird as it's getting dark basically, and it's like, oh my God, golden winged warbler, like head exploding. First record not only for the UK, Great Britain, but for the Western Palearctic. So everybody in the world is going to want to see this thing. Not only is it a vagrant, it's an absurdly good-looking one. So the word starts to get out that night. Old school phone tree. The next day, like hundreds, I want to say like they said like 2,000 or 3,000 people show up at this little place, and it's like they're in the parking lot surrounding the yard where this thing is. and it's getting light, and everybody's, sort of jostling for position, trying to make sure they got a good view. And there's some near fights that break out with some elbowing and some tripods, and people are getting, testy, and everyone's waiting. The bird's not appearing, and sunrise happens, and the people that are in the house in the yard don't know that this bird was sighted here, and they throw back the curtains like it's a brand new day, like, oh, here we are, another nice day. And they see like 3,000 birders. Yeah, hopefully fully clothed. But they see like 3,000 birders staring back at them, in their window. And they're like, good God. And they just they throw the curtains back closed so that like nobody can see anything. And then almost like they couldn't quite believe what they'd just seen. Everyone could see the curtains just crack open and these people peeking out like, what in tarnation is happening out here? Like, what's
like a Mr. Bean episode, I can just
yeah, exactly. And then I guess they kind of, they must have talked to somebody who figured out what was going on, but I guess it took the bird a while to show. I think it didn't show till like 2 or 3 hours after sunrise or something. And finally it teed up at like the highest tree and everybody got to see it. I guess when it teed up, they said you could hear like a pin drop and everyone was like, oh, gasping, and the air left the room and bird flies off. Everybody's seen it. And they said it was like, a football match, like a soccer game. The cheer that went up was like this, roar from the crowd, like, ah, But it must have been quite a scene. I mean, we've had some good ones here, but, I don't think we're quite as obsessive as the Brits generally are about their twitching. I mean, obviously there's exceptions, but it must have been something to be there for that.
No, and they've got a situation where the entire country you could, drive from one end to the other overnight, and be anywhere at daybreak for anything, almost other than the islands. But I think they've come up with systems over there too, and especially for raising funds for conservation. Often, there's like somebody who's representing the BirdLife International or local bird club or something, and they garner funds from these rare birds.
RSPB.
Yeah. I guess this would be RSPB, not BirdLife International. What am I thinking about? Yeah.
I think that is something that I have a couple friends that basically anytime they get a lifer, they've seen a few birds now, or but then that they're trying to kind of preach forward is anytime they get a lifer that they try to make a contribution to either the area NGO or a conservation organization near that area. Now, obviously, if you've only seen 200 or 300 birds, that could get out of control pretty quickly. But if you're moving, getting on down the line, and lifers are becoming fewer and further between, it's something for folks to consider.
You've reached sergeant or captain.
You think so? Just now? Just this very moment? Yeah.
No, you've got enlightened friends, though, because, around here, I think most people put that money to the local bar watering hole after they see a good bird, So,
I guess subject to that myself on occasion. Yes.
I guess you could do both, right? You could,
I think that's the answer right there.
Give money to conservation and give money to the local bar.
Whatever you spend at the bar celebrating that bird, double it and give it to the local conservation group.
Whoa, that's a lot of money. Or international.
Yeah, I know. For some people, that's really get away from you quick. Yeah.
So, if you see a lifer, you're out with friends. Is the rule that you buy a beer for all, or do they buy you a beer for getting the lifer?
My general operating theory is that if I am out with friends, they buy me a beer. Period.
Okay. All right. That's good. So here's the thing. So we're talking about, going to the bar. Not everybody drinks, and that's fine. And not everybody eats meat, George, right? Too. There's an issue of
this is true.
People are vegetarians.
This is true. Yeah, my wife included.
But you brought up the fact that the other day online, you've eaten some crazy critter. I love that. Oh. I love that it comes a Facebook post from a friend from Dorian Anderson of this beautiful mammal out, and you come in there going, I hope people don't get mad at me, but I think I've eaten that. And
Yeah, I was kind of poking the bear there.
Yeah, fortunately, it was a different kind of critter, but similar but different.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to tell that story.
Yeah, so our buddy Dorian's down in
Chile,
Patagonia, in the Andes there, and saw what I presume was his lifer, mountain viscacha.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not real up on my viscacha taxonomy,
Right.
I got to admit.
Right.
And so, thankfully, I have friends. Friends like Alvaro Jaramillo to correct me and say, well, actually, George, there's more than one species here. But yeah, I saw Dorian's picture and I was like, yeah, I will never forget being in Tafí del Valle, as I like to say there, in Argentina, and sitting down at a restaurant with a group and seeing on the menu, it said, it had translated the menu into English for the benefit of travelers and groups like ours. And it said, wild beast similar to a rabbit in brine. And I thought, I don't know what the hell that is, but I'm getting that. Like, how can you not get that? Right. It's like,
in brine.
So I ordered it, and and we'd actually seen viscacha, but it didn't really dawn on me.
Did it come in
right
a
away.
jar and you had to open the jar and take it out of the brine?
Exactly. It's pickled. Yeah. No, it came kind of like, I'm trying to remember what it actually looked like. But I have to say that it was quite good.
Right.
I remember being like, you know what? I would order this again. This was good stuff. Yeah. Like, it really did taste kind of like chicken. And I was quite pleased with it.
At the time, was that the only description you had of what you're eating, or did you know it was a kind of viscacha?
No, I had no idea actually what it was.
So later you had to do some sleuthing and figure out.
Yeah, well, I think Dave Stayskill was with me, and he was just like at a different table. We had two different tables with our group, and Dave was like, "Yeah, it's viscacha," and I was like, "Oh yeah, of course." I was just being an idiot, but and we'd seen a couple, and they're so ridiculous looking. They kind of look like like a rabbit. You squished together a rabbit and a fox or something, right? Or a squirrel, and
it's like a sleepy rabbit with a curly foxtail, kind of like a squirrel's tail. It's like a squirrel's tail on a really sleepy looking rabbit.
Exactly.
With a big nose.
Yeah, that's a perfect description. Yeah, and they're super kind of cute and fuzzy, and so later thinking about what I ate, I did feel a little guilty about it, but only a little.
But, the kind that you ate is actually plains viscacha, right? Which is
right, and this is where it's good to have friends like you, Elbro.
Who love to correct everybody. Like, I only correct people who I think might enjoy the information garnished.
Usually I want to know which viscacha I ate.
So there's mountain viscachas, and there's several species of those. But then the plains viscacha is a different genus. It's got this stripe through the face. And one of the reasons they actually hunt them and eat them, and have done for a long time, the gauchos, is because they make these underground burrows and that the horses fall into, and often will break
I remember
legs.
hearing this now you mention it.
And all this. So they're considered essentially vermin. And rather than just shoot them, people started eating them. And this was probably in the 1800s, 1700s, perhaps even before that, with sort of First Nations people. But it's something that people have been doing a long, long time over there. And the plains viscacha is not nearly as cute as the one in the mountains. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, so I should feel even less guilty about eating it because it's not.
And they're related to guinea pigs. They're in that same group. Mm-hmm. So people eat cuy. Up in the mountains.
Have you ever had occasion to eat capybara?
I have not, and that's another one in this group. So this is a very tasty group of rodents. It seems like people do eat agouti as well, and paca. And so there's a bunch of these things that people eat, and I have not. I guess Venezuela would be the place to eat.
Yeah, Venezuela, Colombia, the Llanos. I was going to say the first capybara I ever saw was we did a tour into the Llanos.
You were going to say it's on a plate.
No, I haven't tried it. Okay. I actually I'd kind of like to try it. But I remember we got, it was one of these things, you drive all day. There was something happened, like a bus broke down or something. We got in at 8 at 9 or night after driving all day, get into the lodge where we're staying in the Llanos of Venezuela here. Beautiful country, great place for big numbers of ibis and screamers are all, hopping around all over the place, walking around and just all sorts of great big birds. The front half of the bird book in South America really well represented in the Llanos. And we get there finally. Everybody's exhausted. And I step out of the bus and I look over and I see about 4 dudes sitting around a campfire at night, kind of glowing. And I'm like, man, that's a weird looking dog they got there. And I just started edging closer and I was like, is that a dog? And then I got closer and I realized it was a capybara. It was sitting with these guys around the campfire. And it was like a domesticated pet capybara. And so I just kind of walked up to these Llanero guys and I was like, what's what I said in Spanish, and I was like, what's his name? And they looked up at me without a pause and just said Shakira. and the capybara was named Shakira, after the pop star. And I thought that was pretty amazing that they had, so the next year I came back, did the tour again, and I saw one of my friends who worked there, and I was like, hey, where's Shakira? And he's like, oh, that we ended up eating Shakira because she bit a lady who's actually, it was a woman who was expecting, and I guess she bit her on the leg or something. They're like, that's enough, Shakira, So anyway, boy, a bit of a messy end there, but for Shakira, yeah,
the idea of bushmeat, I think, is really. Again, another topic one could, and it depends on the region, depends on the animal. There's some real problems with people eating bushmeat in parts of Africa and I guess parts of Asia where it's
for sure
really, the habitat can't take that much extraction of some of these creatures. But capybara, some of these rodents in South America actually, they're abundant and people actually eat them sometimes in some countryside settings quite a lot, and they're still abundant. It's almost like it's and if you had vegetarian, it's a whole different level of consumption that you're using of land and resources and so forth. But if you're eating meat and you live in some of these places, I think eating capybara and maintaining capybara populations would be much better than cattle, right? I mean,
for sure.
So there's a whole element of that's interesting in the South American lowlands. There used to be a hippo-sized capybara,
right,
back in the day,
like a prehistoric. Back when the giant ground sloths were roaming the earth and so forth.
There's a lot of big stuff in South America. Only the little things are remaining.
Yep.
Have you ever seen them with cattle tyrants on their heads and stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
The cattle tyrants are sort of like these ground-dwelling flycatchers that often are around cattle, but in parts of the Llanos, they hang out with capybaras and roam around with them. I love capybaras. They're cool animals. And I have a real fondness for that entire group of rodents.
Yeah, me too.
The cavies and pacas, agoutis, vizcachas.
Alvaro, have you ever seen my father's office?
No.
I can't remember if I've told you about this or not, but he has a real fascination with squirrels.
Oh.
And marmots and prairie dogs, and as he likes to call them, fat, furry rodents.
Chipmunks.
Yes, like golden-mantled ground squirrel is like a favorite of his, and his office is covered in like newspaper clipping articles that are like 50 years old about like squirrels and marmots and prairie dogs, and he's got all these photos and pictures. He's a bird guy.
Yeah.
but he is obsessed with squirrels and groundhogs and all those rodents, and capybaras
Flying squirrels
is one he's fond of as well. Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
ever had the chance to see one of those giant squirrels in Southeast Asia with the colors and they're like massive. They look like a dog going up the.
Yeah. I've seen giant squirrels in Thailand. I think they get almost like they're like a meter long.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I actually worked with flying squirrels for a summer. That was amazing.
Ah,
Yeah, they were beautiful
I
little
haven't seen
critters.
many of those actually. They're quite common around here, but I have seen relatively few.
Yeah, you have to go looking for them. You have to invest your time. But
Yeah. Actually, the new house is in a very good location for flying squirrels. One of the few places I've heard and seen them, and I've started following some Instagram accounts that post pictures of the Asian flying squirrels from like Japan and stuff. And those ones I think are arguably even cuter than the ones we have here in North America.
Yeah. I like to try and see one of those one day. Apparently, they're around in spots where birders go, birding in the mountains and so on. In Japan, you can sort of
Japanese Alps and maybe up in Hokkaido as well.
Yeah, exactly. So be nice to see those. Yeah, squirrels are cool actually. And as a birder, right? Mammals and birding kind of don't go hand in hand because most mammal watching is at night, and some of the real keen mammal watchers now are using infrared sensing equipment and all this other stuff to try to see these mammals. But the one group where you as a birder could actually, find a huge proportion of them if you're looking hard in the right habitats are squirrels, because they're mostly diurnal except for the flying squirrels and chipmunks.
Vocal.
Yeah.
Quite vocal, a lot of
Quite
them.
vocal. And I think chipmunks are, the moment you get tired of gulls, flycatcher identification, chipmunk identification in the West is where you want to devote your time. And I think voice might be the way to sort some of these out. Like when you're up in the Sierras or the parts of the Rockies and you have 2 or 3 different species, vocally, they don't quite sound the same.
Yeah, might have to look at some sonograms for some of those, sort of like doing Impedinax flycatchers.
Right. Who's going to be the one who cracks the code on all these chipmunks? Man.
Well, Alvaro, you and I have talked in the past about doing squirrel tours.
Squirrel tours.
Remember we did our first ever tour we guided together was to Oregon.
Oh, right.
Which is a great place for squirrels and for chipmunks. High diversity there.
Yeah, and I highly recommend this little book called Squirrels of the West. God, I don't know if I have it around here, but it's one of the few books that I got and I was blown away by, like, wow, look at all this, information about these chipmunks and the good maps and the whole deal. But we struggled, I remember, on that trip with some of the IDs, trying to sort out different chipmunks.
Yeah.
Boy.
No, that's, yep. Yep, that's a tangled web.
Yeah,
that is.
But your pops, squirrel guy.
Oh my gosh, obsessed. Obsessed.
Why didn't he, become like a real squirrel guy rather than sort of bird? Or is he really a squirrel guy who I don't know that,
I think you could argue that he's really a squirrel guy who happens to go birding a lot. Yeah, but no, he's studied the squirrels a fair amount. He's definitely a bird guy, but the squirrels own a large chunk of real estate in his heart due to their overwhelming cuteness.
So
high cuteness.
You will have to ask him what is the best squirrel in the entire group in North America, and what worldwide does he think is like top squirrel?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, top squirrel.
Top squirrel.
Boy, that'd be a good television show right there.
Yeah, top squirrel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I can tell you that locally, we barely are in the edge of red squirrel range here.
Oh,
I know a lot of folks to our north are not terribly in love with red squirrels because they can be kind of difficult if they get into your house. But around here, they're just scarce enough. that it's always a treat to see them. And boy, they are pretty absurdly cute.
Yeah, the chicory group.
I know that's a favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the whole red squirrel group. I like their vocalizations too. I do think that, I don't know how, maybe I've seen one or two prairie dogs species in my life. Those are pretty cool. And true marmots, well, I don't want to say again, true or, woodchuck or, groundhog is a true marmot, but mountain level marmots, like hoary marmot, is pretty fantastic, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know why.
It's a good group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to have to edit like half of this bird talk because it was not about birds, George.
Yeah, we really went down a rabbit hole with these rodents, but it all started with the Viscacha. So thanks, Dorian Anderson, for that. But we will have to devote more time to weird things eaten on tour, and to our favorite fat furry rodents in the future.
Yeah, and some of the weird things could be vegetables. Next, people are growing.
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah, and fruits. There's so many cool fruits out there.
I know. Some good fruits.
Don't want to take a durian on a plane, boy.
A Durian Anderson?
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah. Any final thoughts for the folks, Alvaro, before we sign off here?
Well, it's my favorite winter fruit is persimmon, by the way.
Oh, yes.
So I have one waiting for me here this evening. I wait for them to get really, really ripe. And I'm going to enjoy a persimmon. I think I'm going to try and go birding because it's been too long since I've been out there. And otherwise, birding your best life. We're getting more members coming in, more stuff happening. Check it out. It's developing. It's happening. So thank you for interest in that.
Yeah, gathering steam.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks, Al. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we will be back again soon. Cheers, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.